People suffer due to economic debacle caused by former government. Statements by the president. Views expressed on booing at the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
මීට කලිනුත් කල්ලි කණ්ඩායම් හිටියා. හැබැයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පක්ෂ කාර්යාලයක් ඉස්සරහට පූ කිව්වේ.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයට ආදරයක් කරන කිසිම කෙනෙක් මේ විදියට කැත විදියට හැසිරෙන්නේ නැහැ.
පක්ෂ මූලස්ථානයේ අපේ පක්ෂ මහගෙදරට ඇවිල්ලා මෙතන ඉස්සරහා හු කියනකොට ඉතාමත් පැහැදිලි මෙතන තියෙන වෛරය මෙතන තියෙන ක්‍රෝධය
ඒක නොකළ යුතු දෙයක් කියන එක අපි පිළිගන්නවා. අවාසනාවන්ත සිද්ධියක් වුණා අපි ඒක ගැන කනගාටු වෙනවා.
Joint cabinet spokesperson says the cabinet approval should be obtained for a fresh agreement to recommence the stalled Colombo Port City project. Armory to be constructed in Oyamadua, Anuradhapura.
Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shen Silva.
And I'm Nicola De Zoiza, and here's your top story. The people are suffering due to the economic debacle caused by members of the former government. President Maithripala Sirisena made this statement speaking at the inauguration ceremony of the Sri Lanka Economic Forum in Colombo today.
The economic summit organised by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce for the 17th consecutive year under the theme Focus, Act, Deliver commenced today and will take place tomorrow as well.
We are in debt of 9 trillion rupees and that is a burden on the government and all the people in the country. If we are to climb out of this, we need to ensure strict financial management and financial discipline through the state policies. We will be able to raise our heads as a nation only if the general public and the business community act with this in mind. The government, politicians, government officers, businessmen and the general public must understand the situation and everyone must contribute in finding solutions to the economic issues.
අනුග්‍රහය පරිත්‍යාගශීලීභාවය අවබෝධය ඊටාම අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා.
The president also noted that measures will be taken to uplift the lifestyles of the people.
දේශපාලන වේදිකාවල් වල බොහෝ සුරංගනා කතා කියන්න.
On the political stage, one can speak of fairy tales. Some can do the same while walking on the streets. However, the serious acts committed on the economy is now being experienced by the general public. Through government policies, we will be taking measures to uplift the living conditions of the people.
ගත යුතු සියලු ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගත යුතු වෙනවා.
Country seems to be on the cusp, seems to be making some headway towards putting in place conditions for sustained growth and development, not grasping for quick fixes and sugar highs, boom and bust cycles of the sort we've seen in the past, but trying to create a foundation, a strong macroeconomic fundamentals and a clear plan to go ahead. In 2-3 years' time, the government is going to be able to leverage its strong G2G relations with China, Japan, with India, with Singapore, with Korea to get investment in here. So there's going to be a large amount of investment that's going to come into this country. But that is going to take 2-3 years. In those next couple of years, I think the main responsibility is going to lie with the people in this room and others in the private sector in this country. The activation of the animal spirits of the Sri Lankan private sector is crucial if we are to get the economy going in the next year or two, while these other development plans come to fruition.
The Minister of Finance commented on the government's revenue generation.
By putting the expenditure under control, the revenue is the next most important thing. We want to lay emphasis that capital expenditure spent today is the revenue for tomorrow. And that is the reason why you saw such emphasis in the 2016 budget, where we had capital expenditure moving out that had never seen before, almost 354 billion put into place. Whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it is poverty eradication, it was able to give that upliftment that was being looked at. In the areas of customs, which brings us 58% of revenue, a potential that of almost 1,500 billion can be collected. We only collect 850 billion. And that is the reason why the sophistication we are looking. The President has just approved the scanning of equipment that are to be brought in, which is being sometimes opposed by many who are working in it. 1,200 can't determine the future of 23 million people of this country. We thought that's the best way to ensure revenue comes in on a clean basis. And we are successful, and within the next 2-3 months, you will see the success of that coming. All of this is helping to increase the revenue to the 18-19% that we are looking at.
Refreshing to see that the
Certain government policies also came under criticism at the panel discussion.
There have been excessive increases in public sector spending, on salary increases, on new entitlements. The tax system has continued to deteriorate. The IMF program is supposed to reverse that process, but we have seen some unwelcome developments subsequently. There have been too many ad hoc measures on taxation. Business is understandably very vexed because of high levels of unpredictability and uncertainty that continue from the last regime. And might I add, there has been the supreme idiocy of extra price controls, which I thought was something that we had left behind in 1977. But in addition to what was announced in the first budget, there have been new price controls. The government, by creating inflation and by having import protection, puts burdens on consumers and then puts new burdens on producers and entrepreneurs in the form of tax controls. The message sent out is that this is about market busting rather than market facilitating.
මිනිහෙක් මරණ ඉස්සෙල්ලා හාල් කාලක් දීලා කැඳ ටිකක් පෙව්වොත් එහෙම තව දවසක් ජීවත් වෙයි. මරාට පස්සේ හාල් මිටි ගණන් තම්බලා බැනර් ගාලා එම කළා වැඩක් නැහැ. ඒක නෙමෙයි වෙන්න ඕනේ. මැරෙන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා හාල් කාලා දෙන. සර්ලා කරේ මැරෙන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපිට හාල් කාලා දුන්නා. අපි හාල් කාලෙන් කැඳ බොනවා.
That was a farmer in Patalaya.
Genuine words of gratitude from humble human beings who provide us with the rice that we consume. What was the reason for this happiness?
Another phase of the Gamma the 100-day initiative commenced today at the Patalaya Kalaniyapura village in Hambantota.
This was the occasion when the first wooden post was erected for an elephant fence for the village of Patalaya under the Gum at the 100-day initiative. The commencement of the project brings a ray of hope to the people of Patalaya who have been suffering for years as a result of the human-elephant conflict. Construction of the elephant fence began with prominence being given to tradition.
We told you that we will intervene to provide solutions to your issues. We erected this post fulfilling that promise. And today, we promise you again that this elephant fence will be completed within a week.
As a department, we are actually in the midst of many issues. But as per the request of Newsfirst, we have decided to render our fullest support for this endeavour for your sake.
On behalf of the state officials and especially as a divisional secretary, I thank the Citizen Media Network personally for identifying the grievances of the people and giving priority to the people.
Your life has already become a part of our lives. We need a promise from you that you will get involved with the Gum at the Savia program, and with these little things, we will develop this country together. We would like to see everyone here live happy lives. We will dedicate ourselves to achieve that.
Chairman of the Patalaya Gum at the Savia organization, Salat Patirana, also expressed his views. Many of those who expressed their sorrows to us before expressed these views today.
I'm just living around in areas with no objective because I have nothing else to do. I only came here because I saw this. If not, I do not even sight this area. There was no relief whatsoever. For about a year and a half, we have been sleeping for just an hour or two. On behalf of all the farmers here, I pray that the Sirius Media Network be blessed for every time we fill our stomachs and sleep at night. Come at the 100 days, day 14.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe attended the opening session of the 12th World Islamic Economic Forum in Indonesia today.
The forum is being held at the Jakarta Convention Center in Indonesia.
269 hectares is currently being reclaimed from the sea to become a financial city. This will provide a base for logistical and financial services in South Asia and will complement the chain of business hubs from Hong Kong to Singapore to Dubai. These initiatives will be supported by 2 international airports in Mattala Hambantota and Katunayaka Colombo and 2 harbours in Colombo and Hambantota. The government has also signed an agreement with Sabana Jurong Private Limited of Singapore to prepare a master plan for the Trincomalee Economic Development Project on the East Coast. The government of India and Sri Lanka will finalize the Economic Technology Cooperation Agreement by the end of the year, finalizing a free trade agreement with China in 2017. This will connect us to the One Belt, One Road initiative. Negotiating a free trade agreement with Singapore, which we plan to conclude very soon. Establishing close economic cooperation with Japan. Expanding the existing trade treaties with our neighbors in South Asia. And we are also looking to explore other trade agreements with other Bay of Bengal nations, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand and Myanmar, and also with West Asia.
Co-Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne says that in order to recommence the Colombo Port City project, a new agreement needs to be inked and it needs to be approved by Cabinet.
Cabinet Patrika 4ක් ඊයේ සම්මත කරා.
4 cabinet bills were passed yesterday with regard to the Colombo Port City project. The first 3 cabinet papers had details of the agreements and the amendments. The fourth details the amendments made to certain sections. It was noted that the land area of the motherland is being given to a foreign nation, namely China. There was a controversy on this and India also voiced their protest against the project. An agreement was reached for the government to take over the land given to the company. This land is now completely owned by the government of Sri Lanka.
දැන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ආණ්ඩුවට මේක සම්පූර්ණ භූමිය අයිති.
Journalists question whether compensation would be given to the respective company for the period where the project was stalled.
Since the inception of this project, for each month that was delayed, we have to pay them a certain sum. At present, we need to pay them around 150 million. We have agreed to waive that amount and give them 2 hectares of land. Except for Singapore and Dubai, there is no other offshore city. There was never an offshore activity or marina in this region. Under the previous government, the whole land belonged to the Chinese company. However, the development, maintenance and renovation must be done by Sri Lanka on their lands. This was changed on the agreement. The previous agreement did not read of any freedom for us to develop the 2 ports. We did not know how it would affect the development. That was a silent agreement with a separate clause. Initially, there were only 42 conditions. They had 70 conditions, including those on the environment. It was decided in Cabinet that it needs to be passed in Cabinet, and thereafter a new agreement needs to be inked.
දැන් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ තීන්දුව කරා එන කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේදී මේක ඉස්තර වෙන්න ඕනේ. සාමාන්‍ය ක්‍රමාද්දය ඊට පස්සේ ගිවිසුම් අත්සන් කරා. නව ගිවිසුමක් අත්සන් කරා.
Questions were also raised on the completion of the draft of the Right to Information Bill.
ඒක කතානායකතුමා අත්සන් කරනවා.
The speaker signed it yesterday. There was a delay because he was overseas. He signed it yesterday and it will be gazetted. The Act notes that it needs to be enacted in the next 6 months.
Meanwhile, Cabinet has granted approval to construct an armoury in Oyamadua, Anuradhapura. This is being done under the programme to move arms and ammunition belonging to the Triforces stored at various locations to an unpopulated area.
A program will be implemented to gradually move all ammunition from army camps to unpopulated areas. Due to security concerns, we cannot disclose the exact locations. The Ministry of Defence has also focused its attention on this. Thereby, the commanders of the 3 armed forces are acting accordingly. Views were expressed on the incident where the marchers of the joint opposition Padayatra jeered at the SLFP headquarters during several media briefings today.
What about the incident where you jeered at the SLFP headquarters? Why did you do it?
We agree that it was not something that should have happened. Different types of people joined the march. We did not know. It was a large crowd with different kinds of people. We tried to remove certain persons. I don't believe that it was someone who joined the march. Other than that, there weren't any problems. There were bigger things and problems than that. It was an unfortunate incident and we regret it. It is clear that it was not someone who joined the march.
You must have seen the language that was used and the behavior of public representatives during the march. We regret it and we ask for forgiveness from the public for appointing such individuals to the cabinet and making them politicians. This march was organized against the UMP-led government, but the marchers marched past Sirikota silently and jeered in front of our headquarters. Someone who loves SLFP will never behave in this way.
While the former president is trying to split the party, the current chairman of the party was in Kelaniya after the march, seeking for the entire country to be blessed. The current president wants to keep the party together, but a group of leaders who are in power want to regain the power they lost through marches and protests which have gone beyond the provisions of the constitution. It is very clear from the way they jeered in front of our party headquarters. There is anger and hatred here.
Actions will have to be taken against those who created a tense situation during the rally. Let us consider about that after the Central Committee meeting.
Give us a little bit of time. The march was held yesterday. We cannot talk about the actions we will be taking in public. This is an internal problem of the party. So do not make our situation more difficult. Wait and watch what will happen.
But several views were expressed saying that you are afraid of Mahinda.
Yes, we are afraid of him. I am afraid that he will split the party and let UNP govern the country for years. I am actually afraid of Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Mahinda මහත්තයාගේ පක්ෂය කඩලා ආයි පාරක් UNPට තනියෙන් මේක 12 වෙනි මත දෙන්න තමාගේ සහෝදර බසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාගේ ප්ලෑන් නේද මේ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න කියලා. මට ඇත්තට බයයි.
There must have been persons during the march who love the party. I am afraid of what will happen to them.
ඒ අයට කරන මේ අපරාධයට මට ඇත්තට බයයි.
I would like to tell you one thing. Previously too, there were factions within our party, but no one hooted at each other in front of the party office. This is because the party office is the office for all. It cannot be supporters of our party who did this.
That day when we were coming from Polonnaruwa, we came by helicopter. We flew over the Padayatra. The extent of the people of the valley was not even 100 meters. We saw this firsthand. There must have been about 100 vehicles. However, there weren't even people to cover 100 meters. We saw this to our eyes. We saw this from overhead.
If you want to know what the Padayatra looked like to the UMP, I recall a cartoon that was published recently. This cartoon showed a mosquito biting an elephant in one frame and then asking the elephant whether it hurt in the next. This is the reply I can give you. The answer is that although they claim to have brought hundreds of thousands to Colombo, there would have been more on the streets if the university students had protested. This is something we all know.
Minister Chandima Veerakuri says that the Criminal Investigations Department should investigate the incident where a child was used to cause insult to the president opposite the Sri Lanka Freedom Party headquarters and where another group jeered opposite the headquarters. The minister made this observation while addressing a media briefing in Colombo today.
Look at this. They are making an 8-year-old child say this. Even we love the father who saved the country. There is no issue in that. But what are they doing to the culture of our country?
මේ අපේ සංස්කෘතියට මොකද්ද මේ කරන්නේ?
This questions our culture when children are used in this manner. As politicians, even we have gone on rallies. We have gone on marches. But what is happening here? Who took part in yesterday's rally? Was it members of the SLFP who accepted the party's vision, or was it the people who hate the SLFP and the country? I believe their actions made it quite clear who they were. Disciplinary action could be taken if they were SLFP members. Those who hooted are clearly not members of the SLFP. The matter of who assisted in providing a crowd to jeer at the SLFP headquarters when they could not find a crowd to do so must be investigated by the CID, not the party.
In the recent past, representatives of the local government institutions dared the party to expel them. Then letters were sent and they were burned. So is action not being taken against them because they have aligned themselves with former President Mahinda Rajapaksa? Are you afraid?
No, there is no fear whatsoever. However, as the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, our aim is to gather everyone in the party and forge ahead. But remember, the party does not only mean the leaders who occupy positions within the party.
Wasn't there a certain sense of fear that was felt when this rally started?
Well, there was no fear because this was organized by Basil Rajapaksa. We lost because of his role as national organizer. So I knew that this would be the result when he began to intervene.
President's Counsel Hemantha Warnakulasuriya was appointed as board member of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission today. The President's Media Division stated that Hemantha Warnakulasuriya received his appointment letter from President Maithripala Sirisena this morning.
President's Counsel Hemantha Warnakulasuriya has rendered his service as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Legal Aid Commission and as an assistant secretary to the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Hemantha Warnakulasuriya is one of the senior criminal lawyers in the country. He has also served as the Sri Lankan ambassador to Italy, Greece, Albania and as the High Commissioner to Malta and Cyprus.
It is clear that President Maithripala Sirisena is the only head of state in the country committed to bring about national reconciliation. It is also clear that he will bring about national reconciliation among all communities where they will not even remember that there was a war before his time. The rule of law has been established and the magistrates and judges have been given the freedom to take independent decisions. When we take a look at the rule of law and independence of the judiciary, I believe that I must render my support to him. That is why I accepted this post.
A tribute to commemorate the 20th death anniversary of Dr. Chanaka Amaratunga, the founder leader of the Liberal Party of Sri Lanka, was held at the auditorium of the Organisation of Professional Associations last evening.
The event organised by the Liberal Party of Sri Lanka saw the participation of Professor Rajiv Vijayasinha and several other dignitaries.
Propose the best way of thinking about international relations according to our context is a non-aligned policy. Non-aligned policy is a bit archaic now if we talk within the context of Cold War era. But the present government, especially the president, is talking about Sri Lankan specific approach which talks about non-alignment between the regional powers, non-alignment between India and China. Our economic prosperity, our international relations, our social stability can be achieved through such policy.
We have committed ourselves to reconciliation and accountability on a continent in which the path to reconciliation is often a trading of reconciliation for accountability. We are trying to do too much at one time or in sequence. Accountability, which should limit itself to justice through the existing system of courts, laws and the Attorney General's Department, is now moving beyond that to a commitment to set up a special court with special counsel and foreign involvement or participation. And this too is supposed to be done between January and March next year. On the issue of devolution, the 13th Amendment should be the basis of any political settlement. But the moment you move beyond that, you come into the contested terrain of a referendum. And if the British example shows anything, You can have a so-called bipartisan consensus between the two major parties or the party leaders and still lose at a referendum.
The Oxford Business Group, a global publishing, research and consultancy firm, launched its first country report on Sri Lanka yesterday.
Titled the report Sri Lanka 2016, it looks in detail at the Sri Lankan government's vision for boosting economic growth and considers the challenges that the country faces in implementing structural reforms.
The report comes at an important time in our country as well as we position ourselves for major economic reforms. Next 5 years will be decisive for Sri Lanka's transformation. Following election and return to political stability, we have a chance to attract new global champions as well as SMEs interested in local opportunities.
The launch also included a lively debate on the theme Sri Lanka Invest Opportunities 2016-2017. The panelists consisted of several prominent personalities including Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva and Board of Investments Chairman Upul Jayasuriya.
The overriding message is definitely Sri Lanka is one of the more attractive nations for investment in Asia. Just a few more steps are needed. I think the track record in political stability is already building. Obviously, one of the major concerns is fiscal deficit and generally the balance, budget balance. Sri Lanka needs to broaden the tax base. Obviously, this is not something that can be done overnight, but definitely we would like to see more budget revenues, and primarily because the country needs to fund its infrastructure. The idea that foreigners will come and pay for your infrastructure is a tough sell. The sovereign has to assume a certain amount of liability, so the sovereign has to step up and fund these projects. And the only way to do it is through taxation, because ultimately you're creating public good.
As at the moment, the BOI zones are housing about 10% of the BOI projects in Sri Lanka. These 12 zones that we have, which has about 300 factories, they got vacancies up to nearly 25,000 vacancies in the zones alone. That would mean there are at least 200,000 vacancies in the BOI factories alone in the rest of the country. We have to face this reality. I have written to 225 members of parliament individually to send names of people who would desire to be employed. I had no response with at least 100 names. So we had a juncture. We had to decide whether we are going to continue with this or what are we going to do with it.
The 20th annual Navakala Karuo art exhibition organized by the George Keat Foundation was held yesterday. The exhibition, which is held for the promotion of Sri Lanka's emerging art and artists, was held at the University of Visual and Performing Arts. Artists from all parts of the country are chosen through the several exhibitions and presentations organized by the foundation, such as Young Contemporaries and the Kalapula of each year. George Keat, who was born in 1901 and passed away in 1993, made an unparalleled contribution to the art and culture of Sri Lanka for nearly 70 years. The George Keat Foundation was incorporated on the 13th of June 1990 with the intention of perpetuating his name and preserving his work.
Only 3 days remain for the 2016 Rio Olympics to get underway.
The Torch of Hope rally, which is making its way across the island to muster courage among the Sri Lankan sportsmen and women, reached Ambalangoda today.
You can find more details on this by logging on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. And with that, we wrap up the news.